Hey guys, welcome back to First and 10 over here on Clueless Gamers. I'm your host, Pete, as always, joined in a second by my co host, Brian. And guys, it's an exciting day, ladies and gentlemen. We're back for year number 6, the beginning of the NFL season. Of course, it's our prediction show. This is what kicks off everything. It's where we put our money where our mouth is, at least figuratively, and we put the pen to paper, in this case, the keyboard, and we write down what is going to be our standings, our playoff seedings, our awards winners, and who ultimately we think is going to play and win the Super Bowl. I am so excited for this. It's been a long summer here, been a lot of fun. But now, Brian, as the winter starts coming, the fall even before that, the weather starts changing a bit. We get NFL football back, man. I am so jazzed right now, Brian. I'm welcoming you in. How are you doing? How's your summer been? And are you excited as I am to get into this NFL season?
Oh, absolutely. It's always so fun doing the show here. Hard to believe that we are entering our sixth season of
Let's
doing it.
go.
Coming off probably our best year yet. We were at it just about every week last year during the regular season. And then obviously
I
we
know.
ran into some issues there on the technical side when it
Totally.
mattered the most in the playoffs. That was a tough pill to swallow. But hey, we got back, we did our Super Bowl wrap up, and we finished strong, but looking forward to making it even better this season. The weather has just been beautiful. I mean, it has
Awesome.
not felt like summer now for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
I
It's
know.
like 75 and sunny every day. I mean, we don't get this kind of weather. So things are good. Ready to talk some football, get back into the swing of things, and get ready to rock another season.
Man, I cannot wait to get to this, Brian. And you know what? There's a whole bunch of storylines we can get into, but you know what? I feel like we could talk about that a little bit in our predictions for each division. I just want to jump into this. So let's start.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's be fair. Would you like to start in the AFC East, or do you want me to give my predictions for the AFC East? I'll give you the floor, sir.
I'll take the reins, I guess, because it
There we
is
go.
where my favorite team resides. Of
Exactly.
course, as you know, my expectations are never overly high, and that's one team that I do end up typically getting right before the season
Yeah.
is over, not
If
being
you didn't
all
know,
high on the
Brian's
Jets.
a big Jets fan, so
Yeah, I think most people by this point watching our show are
yeah.
familiar with that. And look, there are a lot of high hopes, which I think are a little bit delusional, frankly, for this team to win
Yeah.
10 games. We really think this team's going to win 10 games. I mean, I think people are a little out there. But I'll just go
So
through one through four, and then,
give me
oh, go ahead.
4-1. That's what I want, Bry.
4 to
Starting
1.
last
Okay.
place.
All right. We're starting with the bottom. Well, we're starting with the bottom. I thought about putting my favorite team in the number 4 spot. I really didn't. Frankly, I think it's going to end up being a tie between the third and fourth team.
Okay.
But I'll give my team the slight edge and start in the basement with the New England Patriots, who
Wow.
I do
Okay.
think are slowly improving. I don't think they're going to be a doormat like they've been. I think it's been 4-13 the last 2 years. It
It's been
has
rough.
not been good. No team has been worse offensively. This team
Mhm.
has just been bereft of playmakers for seemingly, close to a decade. It feels like since they've
Definitely since
had
Brady
good
left.
skill positions. Yeah, so I think they are, starting to move in the right direction. They started new head coach wise with Mike Vrabel. Obviously, there's a familiarity level there with him being a longtime Patriot. They spent pretty big in free agency. They, got some playmakers on offense, mainly through the draft with the rookie Henderson running the ball. But I still think this team has a little ways to go. So I think they're improving, from like the 4-win mark to maybe 6 or 7. But I don't think it'll be enough to get out of the basement in the AFC East. So that's where we're going to start. And like I said, I think it's going to be a tie. I mean, I think the Jets and Patriots are both going, let's say, 7-10.
Okay.
So I'm putting the Jets in the third spot. I know there's, some feelings of optimism. I'd love to buy into it, but how many times have we been through this? You
A
bring in
lot.
a coach, he sounds good during the press conference, and we think this is going to be the one to turn it around. You love what Aaron Glenn has brought to the table so far. Him, like Vrabel, being a former Patriot, Glenn being a former Jet. He said all the right things. He clearly has a good energy about him. There are some good things about this team. I think maybe their biggest strength is on the offensive line, where they now have 3 first-round picks bolstering that unit. So the running game should be better. Last year, it just wasn't very good. But to me, I still have a lot of questions about this offense. And it's funny to me when
Fair.
people talk about Justin Fields, it's like, well, he could be good, but he's not a very good thrower of the
I'm like,
football.
yeah,
Well,
that might
that's
be a
kind of the
problem.
idea. Might be a problem as an NFL quarterback. You
Yeah,
kind of have to throw the
I feel the
football,
same
and
way.
so I get it. He's athletic. He can make it happen with his legs, but they have one good weapon at wide receiver and not a whole lot else. If the running game falters like it did last year, I just don't think this offense is going to be able to score enough points. I think the defense will be solid. I would like to say that I see signs of improvement here, but ultimately I think it's another losing season. I don't see them, contending for a playoff spot this year. I think it's going to be another tough year. And then we go to the 2 spot where I have the Dolphins. I don't feel great about this team. There's clearly a lot of issues. And I know talking with you during the offseason, this is a team that you are not high on. I still feel like this offense has the potential to score a lot of points. The problem is the injury questions with Tua. He's had just horrendous concussions, and you just don't know if he's going to be able to last. Tyreek Hill doesn't seem like he's completely happy there. That's an issue. I just feel like defenses have kind of realized how to play this offense. They went through a period where they were unstoppable. Defenses have kind of made their adjustments. They're not that potent group that they once were. And defensively, there's really not a whole lot out there. They brought back Minka Fitzpatrick, but it's not a very good unit on defense. So I don't think I think the Dolphins are short of a playoff year. I'm not even sure they'll end up with a winning record. So that leaves the only team with a winning record in this division, which I think it would be about unanimous from every football pundit to go with the Buffalo Bills
Yeah,
in the number 1
of
spot.
course.
You got the reigning MVP there. He's obviously in the prime of his career. You can poke holes basically on any team in the NFL. There's far from any perfect team, but I think led by Allen and what he's able to do with throwing and running it, and what James Cook was able to do last year, taking some pressure off at the running game. They've got good enough weapons around him. They got a defense that I would describe as opportunistic. I think the Bills have themselves another big season and a division where there's just not a lot of competition to challenge them. I think they come out on top easily.
Well, Bry, I'm surprised by a couple of those, but I mostly agree with a lot of your spots, although we do have a different order. So for me, ladies and gentlemen,
Okay.
starting off in the AFC East from the basement, of course, the first, we'll be doing that for every single division. I went back and forth on this pick of who I wanted in last place, who I believed, but at the end of the day, I think I'm going to stick to what my gut feeling is, what I've seen in the offseason, what I've seen even dating back to last season. I'm picking the Miami Dolphins in last place in this division. I don't
Wow.
think they are going to be a good team. I understand you're going to say, "Well, Pete, listen, when Tua plays, he wins at a pretty high clip in the 60 something percentile." Totally understand that. I just have to believe it when I see it with a guy that has had one season where he has been healthy. I don't believe that as he gets older, as these concussions have mounted, as they even did last year, then you make his offensive line with Armstead getting traded this offseason worse. Achan, the main running back, coming in with injuries. He's expected to play week 1, but he's banged up. Hill is banged up, and he's been disgruntled since last year. There's a lot of things bubbling in that Miami locker room, and I'll say it right now as a hot take, bold prediction. I do not think Mike McDaniels reaches the halfway point of this NFL season. I think that'll be it. I think he is proven from the things we've heard out of Miami. The players really do not have any respect for him whatsoever. It's why Jalen Ramsey was shipped out of that area because he was one of the main kind of people kind of spearheading that of showing up late to meetings, not really respecting what the coach said, and they brought back someone who's familiar and who I think is actually at this point in his career is a better player in Micah Fitzpatrick. That being said, I think this roster is
Mhm.
very thin. I think there's a lot that they have to do here. They're going to be somewhere around that 5-6 win category. I'm putting the Dolphins in last. Not that much better than them, honestly, is the New York Jets in third place. I think they could have a promising start here. I really maybe call me, a little bit optimistic and maybe foolishly optimistic, but I like the building blocks that can be for this team. But you said it right at the top. When you have a guy throwing like in the mid 50s as their career completion percentage in Justin Fields, your main job is literally to throw the ball. I just don't have any hope there outside of Garrett Wilson. I'm not a Brees Hall really believer. I don't really, kind of drink the Kool-Aid there. You got Alan Lazard maybe competing there for the two. You're dealing with a rookie at tight end. You're hoping could do something. Once again, rebuilt offensive line. Are they going to stay healthy? Are they going to be good? The Jets defense is going to be solid, probably, right? And I believe in Aaron Glenn doing that. Offensively, I think they're going to struggle all year. And number two, I'm putting the New England Patriots. I don't know if this is necessarily, I won't spoil any of that. I don't know necessarily if this is going to be a playoff team. We'll see here in about 20 or so minutes when we start doing those playoff predictions. But I think under Mike Vrabel, there's going to be massive improvement with this team. I think Drake May takes a nice step. I don't love the weapons in New England. I will admit that, but I do think in the rookie Henderson, maybe you could squeeze the last bits out of Diggs at wide receiver. There can be something there, and I think overall there'll just be a much more cohesive, better coach team than they were last year under Gerard Mayo. And then number one, there's nothing even to talk about. It's the Buffalo Bills, the MVP Josh Allen. Barring a massive injury, this team is winning the division. There's really nothing more to say. Brian, unless you want to comment on that, I'll switch over to you for the AFC South.
Yeah, so I didn't think you would have the Patriots as high as you did. I knew you were down on Miami. I didn't know you were going to go basement level for the Dolphins.
Yeah,
But the Patriots, I felt like you weren't as high on their off season as maybe I thought.
it was okay.
So you have them in second. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. But as we move to the next division, oh yeah, this is an interesting one because it
Yeah.
now houses, of course, one Aaron Rodgers.
No, we're gonna do
Uh,
we're gonna do AFC South. We're gonna do AFC South.
oh, AFC South. Okay, my mistake.
No, you
All
got it.
right, so this division, yeah, this division has a lot less juice, quite
It
frankly.
does.
I mean, most of these teams to go, are we really going to go into great depth on the Tennessee Titans? I mean, this is a team that's trying to find its way. They had the number one pick, of course, last year in Cam Ward. Obviously there's potential there, but
Yeah.
this team has a long way to go. I start with them in the basement. They got to build basically,
Yeah,
and if
for sure.
Cam Ward is the guy. Then in time, this team will get better. They got a decent offensive-minded head coach with Brian Callahan, but I don't see a lot of prospects trending in the right direction for the Titans in 2025. Moving to the third place team, this might surprise you a little bit. I'm putting the Colts
Okay.
in the number three spot. The quarterback situation here, it's not good. It
No.
appears they've already given up on Anthony Richardson, a
Yeah.
guy that they took in the first round, which at
Fourth
the time
overall.
we knew he was a project. Yeah, and inconsistent to say the least, injury prone. I mean, it just has not worked out. So where do they go now? But to the Daniel Jones well, and they've already announced. They
Good luck.
announced a couple weeks ago that he would be the week one starter. We know all about what Daniel Jones brings to the table, having watched up close and personal here in the New York area.
Oh
And
my.
I mean, look, he got the Giants to the playoffs one year, but he's limited in what he can do. I
For
mean,
sure.
this is a team that if they're going to be successful, it's going to be about the running game and Jonathan Taylor. I don't think this team it lacks the talent. Both sides of the ball, they've got some players, but the quarterback situation holds them back big time. I think it will again this year. To the second place team, I'm elevating the Jacksonville Jaguars a bit. I mean, this is a team that has kind of been lost at sea the last couple of
Yeah.
years. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, what happened to you? I mean, so much promise early on after being drafted #1 overall, but it's been a struggle to say the least. I think he turns it around a bit this year. I think the Jaguars are actually headed in the right direction. I think Liam Cohen is really a good offensive mind. We saw what he was able to do in Tampa as the offensive coordinator. I'm not expecting anything special out of this Jaguar team, but I do think they'll be improved. I think Trevor Lawrence, we're going to see a better version of. Obviously, a lot of excitement around Travis Hunter. Anytime you get a
Yeah.
player who can play both sides of the ball and impact the game both ways, he brings a lot to the table. I think the Jags are better. Brian Robinson, too, an
Yeah. Love
outstanding
that guy.
receiver coming off a great. Oh, I really think Lawrence played a lot better this year, and the Jags take a step forward. But #1, as I think is kind of conventional wisdom, I'm taking the Houston Texans. It was kind of a up and down year 2 for CJ Stroud. I think he kind of smooths out some of the rough edges here in year 3. I think things are going to run more smoothly for him. The offense, I think, will be a little healthier once you get the full complement of guys back. Nico Collins is a game wrecker. Team on defense, they're legit.
They're gonna
I
be
mean,
good.
they are a top
Yeah.
they might be the best defensive team in the league.
Yeah.
They got guys all over the field on that side of the ball. And D'Amico Ryans has proven already he's a winning head coach. I wasn't impressed with this team last year, and yet they still found their way into the playoffs, won a game over the Chargers. So I just think things are going to run smoother for the Texans this year. I think they're somewhat of a threat in the AFC. I think this is a really
Okay.
solid team, and I'm expecting better things from Stroud. So I'm going Houston in the top spot.
Brian, I like those picks. I really don't have a ton of differences from yours besides one swap. But the number 4 for me is the Colts. I think this is one of those
Wow.
years where it's look, as you said, we've watched Daniel Jones. They've given up on Richardson. I always hear about, oh, they got all this talent. Oh, Shane Steichen. Prove it to me. Prove it to me. I don't believe you every year. You're like this mediocre 7-8 win team. I actually think with Daniel Jones, you're going to go backwards. I think this is more going to be like a 5 or 6 win team, with all the stuff that happened with, the late owner in Jim Irsay. There's going to be a lot of changes, I think, in this organization in the next couple of years. I think it's going to be a rough year for them as they kind of do a really reset in the beginning of a rebuild. Because right now, I don't think they believe they're in a rebuild. They're going to realize it about halfway through the season. I got them in the 4th spot. For me, I think the Titans take a little bit of a step forward. I think it's a team that has a long way to go in terms of really showing and competing, especially in the tougher conference in the AFC. But I'm very fascinated to see what Cam Ward has to offer. They have a lot of young players on this team that I really want to see how they pop. Does Calvin Ridley, have a more consistent year this year? Those are the things I'm kind of looking forward to with the Titans. I just want to see something out of them, but I don't. It'll be a small improvement. There's definitely hope with a quarterback. I just don't know how much of a leap they're going to be. I think some people saying that they're going to be the sneaky dark horse team, I think is a little far fetched. And number 2, it's my long lost love in the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've been trying to believe in this team for like 3 years now, and in Trevor Lawrence. At this point, Trevor, it's put up or shut up, man. I mean, you're a decade into a half a decade into your career. When are we going to do something more than one miraculous comeback playoff win? Can we get to the playoffs? Can we have a winning season? Can we stay healthy for a whole season? Those are things I need to see. You have Hunter, you have Thomas. There's some interesting players defensively. I like Tank Bigsby. I like some of these pieces here. Am I a full believer in Liam Cohen? Not really, but you know what? To be fair, I thought Dan Campbell had a weird press conference, and look how he turned out to be. And Liam Cohen certainly had a very weird press conference with his whole Duval and all that stuff. So I'm fascinated in the Jags. I'm trying to believe in the Jags, but I still have them at the number 2. And number 1, yeah, it's these first 2 divisions here in the AFC and the East and the South have been pretty predictable and boring. It's the Houston Texans. I mean, this defense, I think you said it, they're going to be ferocious. They're going to be amazing. I think Stroud will struggle a little bit. I think with Tank Dell out for a considerable amount of time, you have Nico Collins. I mean, the reports right now looks like Joe Mixon might not even play the entire season. Can Nick Chubb have a
Mhm.
bounce back year here in Houston? Is it Damian Pierce? Is it a rookie? The offensive line, I still think, has a long way to go. So I think they're going to struggle offensively, and I think it's going to be their defense that kind of brings them to the playoffs, wins this division. So that's how I'm looking for the South to shape up. Brian, you were a little bit early, but now we're getting to the AFC North with Aaron Rodgers. Who you got at number 4?
Yeah, I I know I jumped the gun. I was just so excited to talk about Aaron
Your old
Rodgers, the
quarterback.
Pittsburgh Steeler unit. Yeah, oh yeah. After just his wonderful Jets tenure that we'll all remember so well. But we start in the bottom spot where I'm not going to put Rodgers' team. I'm not going to be that cruel to him. I think most would have the Cleveland Browns in the
Yeah.
number 4 spot. I mean, this is a team. Look, during the training camp and preseason, how many quarterbacks did they have? Like 5? I mean, 7. Yeah, it was just ridiculous. And I mean, they're going with Joe Flacco. Now, Joe Flacco a couple of years ago was on his couch and, came out of
Took them
retirement.
to the
And
playoffs.
I give him credit. I mean, I give him credit. At his old age, he still goes out there. He still can be effective at times. He was even last year with the Colts. But this Browns team, I had some hope for them even the last couple of years, and they've kind of let me down. I just feel like now the window is past. Of course, they move on from Deshaun Watson. It had to be done. It just wasn't working out. But the quarterback situation there leaves a lot to be desired. Shador Sanders doesn't seem like he's even in the offing to even, get any snaps this year. You got another rookie in the mix there. I just think it's a lot of shuffling there with the Browns. I'm not very high on this team, as I don't think many are, so we start with them in fourth. Now in third, well, that's where we go to Aaron
All
Rodgers'
right.
team. And I know I've heard some people think this team is going to be really good. I don't see it. I don't feel like Rodgers at this point has much good football left. And I know he's said things like, oh, he made this decision about signing with Pittsburgh with his soul and not his mind. And that's going to make all the difference in the world. At this point, we've learned Aaron Rodgers, a little bit of a weird guy.
You don't
So,
miss those
that
anecdotes on the Jets, man? You don't miss that?
yeah, I can't say I do. I feel like the one thing with the Jets positively is that they're at least not going to be a circus. At least we can hope.
It's true.
The Steelers, I think, are going to be a little more of a circus. I mean, maybe not as much as the Jets because you still have Tomlin there coaching. But I'm just curious about the whole dynamic with Tomlin and Rodgers. I don't know that this is going to be exactly a combo that meshes too well. I just feel like the combination of players is kind of weird. They bring DK Metcalf in. Is Rogers really going to develop a good chemistry with him at 40 something years old? So I'm just not high on the Steeler team, and I know they can get after you on defense, and they got what I think is the best defensive player in the game in T.J. Watt. But I don't buy Rodgers having like this bounce back season. He's going to prove all the haters wrong, and the Steelers are going to go on this magical run. I think they're going to disappoint, and frankly, have the first losing season
All
in
right.
the Mike
There's
Tomlin
on record.
team
There we
era.
go. All right.
It's on record. Let's move to the number 2 spot where I have the Cincinnati Bengals. And it always comes down to with the Bengals, this team gets off to slow starts. So before the
Yeah.
show, what I wanted to do is look at what does the Bengals schedule look like early on. And what I find is the first 2 weeks, they've got games that they've got to win both to start 2-0. They start out in Cleveland, who I just talked about, a team that should be a bottom feeder. That's got to be a win. They then in week 2 go home to play their home opener against Jacksonville. That very winnable
Come
game.
on, man. Yeah.
You got to start 2-0. And this is a team, how many times have they started, 1-4, 1-5, 2-6? And they have these late rallies, but it's the start that dooms them. Well, I think this year they get out of the gate well. They get those 2 wins. Then, by the way, the schedule gets pretty difficult. I mean, they've got some tough games in there, weeks 3 through 7, as I was checking it out. But I just have too much belief. I believe Joe Burrow is going to have a huge season. And I mean he did last year. I'm not exactly going out on a limb here, but I think he's going to be even better than last year.
Oh yeah.
I think he has a chance to be the top quarterback in the league this year. I think he's going to put up monstrous numbers. This great duo of receivers, who, by the way, they got both signed, and it's unlike the
Crazy.
Bengals to pony up, pay
Yeah.
big time players, but they got it done, keeping T. Higgins aboard with Chase. I think their offense is going to be great. Defense, we know, isn't great, and they've got issues trying to get their
That's
best
an
defensive
understatement.
players signed. Yeah, but I think it's all about the offense there. And I think that will carry them, and they will have themselves a very good season as long as they can start out well. But number one, you got to go with the Ravens. I mean, this is a team that's the co-favorite to win the Super Bowl, rightfully so. I mean, the pedigree for the regular season speaks for itself. Lamar Jackson right now is probably the best regular season player in the NFL. He's got to answer the questions in the playoffs. Everybody knows that. Everybody who watches football knows that.
Yep.
But this team, top to bottom, they're just such a solid organization. You know what Lamar can do. I think Zay Flowers takes a big step forward, becomes a dynamic weapon in that offense. Eric Henry was so good last year. I don't think you can expect him to be as good, but he's still a force. Their running game will be good. Defensively, the Ravens' identity has always been the same. They've got strong defensive play year in, year out. I think it's going to be the case again. I think it's another double-digit win year for the Ravens. And so I round them out with the division winner with the Bengals second, Pittsburgh three, and Cleveland four.
Yeah, Brian, to break the suspense here for the audience, I have the exact same setup in the AFC North. I have Browns at 4, Steelers, Bengals, Ravens. I think the Browns, I mean, I think you eloquently put that. The old saying was, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. What happens when you have 5 quarterbacks? Do you have no quarterbacks? They're not going to be good. There'll be some interesting players there, but I feel bad. I mean, look, he got the money. He got what he wanted in Miles Garrett. But you're going to see Flacco start this year. You're going to see Dylan Gabriel start this year. You're going to see Shador Sanders start this year. Who the hell knows? I mean, at this point, maybe they bring back Tyler Huntley to start him again. I mean, you have no idea what's going to happen there. They're going to be in some rough shape. They're going to be an S show over there in Cleveland. The Steelers, it's interesting. I would be lying if I didn't say that I'm not going to tune in because I'm absolutely. It's Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't matter. He's going to be 42 in December.
Of
I'm
course.
going to watch what happens for better or for worse. I know that's always the thing, right? The Steelers fans, it's all they have to hold on to these days because they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. Well, we never had a losing season. They could this year, maybe. I also wouldn't be surprised if they go 9-8. Like, it just wouldn't shock me there. It just, look, I watched Aaron Rodgers last year, and what frustrated me so much that I saw in this offseason, it's like everybody's mind in the TV universe, these analysts on TV, it just went blank. They're like, well, you look at the numbers. I mean, I threw 28 touchdowns. I mean, he's pretty good. I'm like, do you guys forget? Did you watch these games? Do you remember like the last week of the season he threw 4 touchdowns against the Miami Dolphins backups? Like, does everybody forget how he just stat padded? No one remembers that. Like, no one remember the game remember when he went up to Buffalo and he was trying to get that touchdown for the connection to Vontae Adams, and he was horrific for 3.5 quarters. The man looked lost, like he had never played NFL football. Like, that is what's frustrating me. Do I think he could have a bounce back year, quote unquote? I mean, maybe, but they don't have a great offensive line. It's not great for an immobile quarterback who's going to be 42 this year. Are you trusting Jalen Warren in the backfield? DK Metcalf's a hothead. Jonnu Smith Fryermuth, I guess, could be interesting. The defense is good when TJ Watt is playing. There's no one denying he's excellent, but he's also had a history of injuries. And they're a significantly different team when he's there. How is Jalen Ramsey's personality fitting in? I just think it's a weird concoction of personalities. I get them at 3. And then, the Bengals, there's really nothing to say about them other than what you. The offense is going to be great. The defense is going to be maybe historically horrific. Like, I think they're just going to be horrible. I think switching out and firing Lou Anarumo did absolutely nothing. It was not his fault. Could Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart, their first-round pick, have an amazing season each side, maybe, but that's the only thing that's going to save that defense. If you watch them in the preseason, I get it's preseason, but they looked so lost it wasn't even funny. And then at number one, yeah, it's the Ravens. The question is, of course, as you put, it's the postseason. Everyone's going to say that. We're not going to be able to say anything negative about this team really until you get to the postseason. That is where they have to prove their mettle to themselves and everybody else. In the regular season, they're dominant. They blow teams out like Buffalo. They go back and forth with the Chiefs. They dominate people, beat them by 25 or more. Remember a couple years ago when they destroyed the Lions? Like, this is just what they do. They're a great regular season team. And of course, how can they not be number one? Brian, to finish out the AFC conference, man, let's do the AFC West. I'm actually really excited for this division because I think we're going to have some differences here.
Yeah, I mean this is a quality division. I mean, I don't think there's a bad team here. I think you've got potential for three, if not even all four teams to make the playoffs. Honestly, I think it's going to be a highly competitive division. You've got some good coaches. You've got some great quarterbacks. So yeah, this division has a lot of juice. That's for sure. We'll start with fourth, and like I said, I don't think there's a bad team here, but somebody's got to be last, and I'm going to put the Raiders in the number four spot. I think they're going to be better. I mean, I think when you add Pete Carroll as the head coach, you add instant credibility. I mean, he's a guy who has been a winner his whole coaching career, college and pros. I was surprised the Seahawks ended up cutting the cord with him a couple of years ago, but he finds another job. He's in his 70s, but he's got, youthful exuberance to
Yeah.
say the least. So I think he could still stick around a while. And by the way, like they drafted Ashton Genty, who everybody just loves. That's a guy who takes the reins at running back right away, becomes a bell cow. Brock Bowers already elite at the tight end position. So it comes down to what are you getting out of the quarterback? And well, the quarterback is Geno Smith, who
Solid.
he's not great, but he's better than what they had. I mean, they were running Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell out there
Yikes.
last year. So yeah, it wasn't very good. So I think you clearly have an upgrade there. But, this defense has been an issue and the division is so competitive. I just don't see them being good enough to get out of the last place spot. Moving to number three, where I have the Chargers. And look, we've done the show now. This is our sixth year. We've had a lot of things to say about the Chargers through
Say
the
it, bro.
years, and most of them aren't positive. But this is a team last year coming off a playoff berth, very disappointing playoff exit. I thought for sure they were going to win around there against Houston. It was not a good performance in that game whatsoever. Very poor from Justin Herbert, who he's still a bit of an enigma even at this
Yeah.
stage of his career. You feel like there's more in there. You feel like Jim Harbaugh is going to be able to get the most out of him. It's a team that's building. They're kind of getting that identity of a toughness like the Harbaugh teams have. They drafted a running back in Hampton who's going to take the reins there. Lad McConkey, it looks like he has the potential to be a special player at receiver, and Keenan Allen comes back. So I think this offense could be really good. It's just a matter the Chargers just always get in their own way. I think that's the thing more than anything else. So that to me holds them back. I got them third. Second, I'm going Denver.
Okay.
I think this is a team that is really solid now, both sides of the ball. Sean Payton has turned things around there. Bo Nix looks like a player coming off a very good rookie season, and I think is going to be even better this year. They got Cortland Sutton signed. He's a good weapon. They've got a receiver, and I just trust Sean Payton and what he's able to do on offense, and Bo Nix taking the next step forward there, with obviously a quality defense on that side. So I think the Broncos are very much a threat, very much in the thick of the conversation in the AFC. But number one, I'm not going to overthink this. It's going to be the Chiefs. And I have a feeling it's going to be a similar story because the Chiefs,
Yep.
the regular season, it feels like they kind of go through the
They don't
motions.
care.
I don't I don't think this is going to be the year where, oh, now Mahomes throws 50 touchdowns again and they're back to winning, well, they're going to win a lot of games,
Yeah.
but I just don't think they're at a point where their offense is going to reach the heights that we saw, 3 and 4 years ago. They just play a very different style now, and they don't have those game wreckers on offense. I mean, Travis Kelsey at this point might be his last season. We know there's a lot of news off the field there, you may have heard. Um,
Congratulations.
so I just think it's going to be a similar story with the Chiefs, where look, they're going to win a lot of games. They grind you out, of course. They're obviously Mahomes is great, but the offense has been kind of lacking the last couple of years. I'd like to see them be better. Xavier Worthy maybe is the guy who can kind of take the top off the defense and become that go-to weapon. But I think it's really going to be kind of the similar story for the Chiefs. So I'm going with them to win the division, but I think they're going to be kind of a similar spot as we've seen them last year in particular. So that's how I rounded out with the West.
Brian, I think you're copying off my paper because I had the exact same set yet again. Yeah, I think this division is going to be really good. But you know what? The last time we said this a couple of years ago, remember when we said, could this be the
I
best
do.
division of QBs ever? And how did that work out? Remember?
Completely flopped.
Oh, it was horrible. Russell Wilson and Derek Carr. It was terrible. So I am very hesitant
Terrible.
now where it's like, oh, it's the best division maybe of head coaches ever. I'm very hesitant on how this ends up going, but I do think Gino is easily an upgrade over anything they have. Pete Carroll's a good, coach there, really putting a lot of, kind of his style, his stamp, especially on the defense. But the defense is lacking a ton of players. To be honest, like, yeah, we don't know what Genty's going to be. Brock Bowers was a stud last year, but like, who's that wide receiver? Jacoby Myers, who requested a trade. You bring in Cooper, Amari Cooper. Like, I just don't feel like there's a lot to work with there. They'll be solid, but they're not going to be anything crazy. I think people are getting a little too hyped with the Raiders. The Chargers, I'm a huge fan of Jim Harbaugh, but I think they take a step back this year. I think last year, kind of right up there is like I think they were like the number one scoring defense in the league, or they were right up there under defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, who obviously came over with Harbaugh from Michigan. I don't think they're going to have that same, maybe they're top 10. They're just not the best in the NFL. And then, you know, at some point, and we've talked about this at least for the last year, both of us have been on the same page with this. Justin Herbert's got to prove it. Okay, I don't want to keep hearing the same, well, look at the way he throws the ball. This guy's Peyton Manning 2.0, but with more mobility. When are you going to prove it? That's what I'm wondering. Because, Brian, this is a huge year. Peyton Manning, most people, you could look it up. Peyton Manning, think about year 6, which is what Herbert is going to enter this season. He won an NFL MVP. Justin Herbert going to win an NFL MVP this season? Highly doubt it. I just think he has to make leaps. He has to prove us wrong that they're not going to be in third place, or they're at least going to make the playoffs. And how are they going to do that? Rashawn Slater, their great young left tackle, he's out for the year. Who's at wide receiver? An old Keenan Allen they signed off the street? Rookie Trey Harris? Yeah, McConkey's solid, but I just don't think there's a lot here on this team. Najee Harris, he's got all the injuries coming off. It looks like he's going to be available for week 1, but he had the whole fireworks accident this offseason. Hampton's a rookie. I just don't know how much juice you can get out of the Chargers. And as we always say, the Chargers are going to charger. I mean, that's just what they do. So I think they take a little bit of a step back this year. Broncos, I think, are going to have maybe a top 2 defense in the league. They're at number 2 for me. I think they're going to be right up neck and neck there with the Houston Texans. They're going to have a fantastic defense. I love the signings they made. Obviously, it matters if these guys stay healthy, but Greenlaw, Afunga coming over from the Niners. You had those who they're already great defense. Pat Surtain already back there. And, Bo Nix, I was a believer last season. I'm even more of a believer. I know they don't have crazy weaponry, right? Like Cortland Sutton, and then it's like, Mims and guys. I get that. But I do think you can make some progress under Sean Payton's offense. There's a lot of buzz around RJ Harvey, the young running back. I believe in the schematics are going to be there. And I think Bo Nix, he's a system kind of on-time quarterback. Very much reminds me of a Drew Brees style thing, which I think is exactly what Peyton was looking for. I like them in second place. And then it's the Chiefs, man. We talk about this. This is probably like the third straight year we've talked about this, where every year, turn on NFL Live, turn on insert TV show, everybody's always trashing the Chiefs, even though they just won a Super Bowl or they just got to Super Bowl. They're not going to be as good. Is this the year they take a step back? I don't. I think they might be the. What was one of the things that came out recently? One of those ESPN polls, something like that. Sixth, eighth best team in the league. What are we doing? What are we doing? Like every year, how many years does Patrick Mahomes need to keep showing you that he's the best quarterback in football? How many years does Andy Reid and the Chiefs have to show you that? It doesn't matter if we win ugly. We're going to win. We're going to make it to the playoffs. We're going to make it deep in the playoffs. Every year under Patrick Mahomes, they have not gotten short of the AFC Championship. And the two times they didn't make the Super Bowl, they lost in overtime at the AFC Championship. I mean, what are we doing? Let's not overthink this. They're bored with the regular season. Would I like to see them go back to the team that was high flying, gunning the ball downfield, throwing it to Tyreek Hill? Maybe you could do that with Xavier Worthy. I would love that. It's great for the entertainment product, but no matter what way they win, they're going to win, barring a crazy injury. Let's stop with the nonsense. I'm over it. Bri, with that being said, let's switch over to the NFC and the NFC East. We're starting. Who you got in last place?
I think we got to make our New York fans a little unhappy to start here because I
Okay.
have the Giants in last. I thought about the possibility of taking them out of the basement
Okay.
and putting them third. I just couldn't do it. I think we might see some improvement here, but there's some things that are working against them. The first of which, the schedule is very
It's
daunting. I
brutal.
mean, they
It's
have
brutal.
an absolutely brutal schedule for a team that finished last place
Yeah.
last year. I mean, it's almost hard to believe. They start out with a couple divisional games on the road, and it's like, okay, now we get our home opener against the Chiefs. So that's how their season starts. And, they got games against the Niners and the Packers and the Broncos
Yeah.
and you name it. It's like every good team they're
Yeah.
playing this year. Like, it's going to be tough. And this is a team that, the roster has been under construction, quarterback situation completely overhauled, which was obviously needed. Jackson Dart has been the darling of the preseason. I mean, everybody's high on him now. We know we're not going to see him right away. It's going to be the Russell Wilson show for a little bit. Hey, at least he brings credibility to the
It's
quarterback
true.
position. I think that's what it is more than anything. But this is a team that still has a long way to go. I'm not ready to say they're going to take that big of a step forward. I think it will be improvement, but in the end, the schedule just works too much against them. I've got them in fourth. And then we move up to number three is the saga that is the Dallas
Holy Lord.
Cowboys. I mean, this our first mention here, the Micah Parsons situation. I did not expect it to end the way it did. Them
No, me either.
trading, arguably the best defensive player in the game for a package that it wasn't nothing, but
It's
it
not
wasn't close
spectacular.
to Parsons.
No.
Not spectacular. I mean, they did get two first round picks. You do get Kenny Clark, who's a very good defensive player, but Micah Parsons is a game changer on that side of the ball. And to lose him is losing an awful lot on that unit.
Yeah.
The Cowboys, I mean, we know about the issues here. They hired a coach that didn't interview anywhere else. I've never seen a coaching hire that was panned more than with the Cowboys selected in Brian Schottenheimer, who we here remember back in, circa '09, 2010, he was the Jets offensive coordinator and wasn't exactly stellar.
Yeah.
So now he's running the show for the Cowboys, and I think the only one who's happy about it is Jerry Jones. So that's where the Cowboys are at. It's going to be another, very chaotic season in Dallas that ends in a third place finish, at least according to my predictions. Number two, we're going with Washington here, and you know me, I was the first to pick highly of Washington last year when a lot of people were picking them in last place. And I thought Jaden Daniels would be very impressive as a rookie, and obviously he exceeded anybody's expectations. He was through the roof. I do feel like there is bound to be a little bit of regression here. Look, I think he's still going to be very good, but I really do believe, defenses make adjustments, and we've seen a lot of quarterbacks from year one to year two where we thought it was a sure thing after the rookie season. It's a big step back in year two. I mean, CJ Stroud is a big example of that. Now, I think Daniels is better than Stroud, but I don't think he's going to set the world on fire like he did as a rookie. I think there's going to be some adjustments there, and I don't think Debo Samuel is enough to elevate that offense to, new heights this year. They had the whole distraction during the offseason. Terry McLaurin, I don't like that. I know they did get the deal done eventually, but I don't like that disconnect that you're dealing with in a training camp and into preseason. Things like that can kind of fester within an organization. And so I'm picking Washington to finish second, but I think they're not going to be quite as good as a year ago. And then number one, I mean, not much really needs to be said. It's the defending champs who, will have a little bit of a different look. They did say goodbye to some of their key players in free agency. That's kind of the way of the NFL. You win, players want to get paid elsewhere. The Eagles are going to be dealing with that. But, I mean, this team is still really solid
Ridiculous.
offensively. They're pretty much intact. Yeah. Barkley coming off just that legendary season. I don't think we could expect the same, but they're still going to run the ball really well. And Jalen Hurts and his full complement of receivers, what they can bring on the defensive side. We know what Philly is about. I think they're going to be really good again and win this division once again.
Yeah, Bry, I'm getting a little nervous because we once again have the same exact picks here. Um, so, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the lack of, suspense. But yeah, with the Giants, I went back and forth. I'm gonna be honest. I really had the Cowboys here at last place, especially after the Micah Parsons deal. But the Giants are in a situation where they're one of those teams that we've seen time and time again in the NFL, where the head coach and the GM, it was said by the owner in Mara, that they're on the hot seat immediately as soon as the season starts. I think that's just a bad recipe. And an organization that for over 10 years now has been one of the bottom five, has been a laughing stock. You have to prove to me that Jackson Dart, this isn't just hype in the preseason against the number threes of the other team. You're starting over Wilson. Do you go to Winston? How are these going to go? I think they have a possibility of having a really good defensive line possibly, but I heard that 2 years ago when they brought Kayvon Thibodeau in and they drafted him. Oh my God, he's going to be amazing. I feel like we're very much retreading the same water here now with Abdul Carter, where he could be great. He has looked great so far from what we've seen the reports out of training camp, but we've seen the limited action in preseason. Sure. But this is more of a prove it to me. And right now, I'm kind of like, yeah, does Russell Wilson bring credibility, as you said? Sure. But like I kind of know what he is. I've seen it with the Broncos. I saw it with the Steelers. Like we kind of know what he is at this point. And with Neighbors coming in banged up, I don't love an offensive line, especially in an offensive line where you have Andrew Thomas, the left tackle, constantly getting hurt. We're relying on Tyrone Tracy and these guys. I want to see them take steps forward. I want to see, obviously, the local teams succeed. You have to prove it to me. You have to prove it to me by even beating the number 3 team in the Dallas Cowboys. It seems like no matter how bad of a season the Dallas Cowboys are having, and they're going to have one this year, in my opinion, they always beat the Giants. And that's why that was kind of the deciding factor for me of like, I think they're going to be heavy offense. I think they're going to be great fantasy wise if you have Dak Prescott or George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb. But I don't love the running game, Javonte Williams and stuff. The offensive line is kind of mishmash all over the place. And I think they're going to have one of the worst defenses in football. I thought it was not only the Parsons stuff aside, which I think you eloquently put, I thought it was ridiculous and how Jerry Jones ruined that. Very much, I saw someone make the comparison that it feels like it's in kind of the last years of the Al Davis Raiders. Very much feels like that. I totally vibed when I saw, I think it was on Twitter, I saw it on TV. I was like, totally understand that. But then also going out and signing Deron Bland, who I think is a very overrated player, and gave him like $92 million or something like that. I'm like, that's just a slap in the face to Michael Parsons. That's crazy. So I think Brian Schottenheimer, he wouldn't have gotten hired anywhere else. The Cowboys like hiring insular guys that they know so Jerry can control them. I think they're going to be a really bad team. And Dak Prescott, quietly, has been a very injury-prone player these last few years. Got to keep an eye on that as well. His lack of mobility after multiple leg surgeries. Number two, the Commanders. I also, again, I agree with you. I think they're going to be good. They're going to be a solid team. I'm a very high believer in Jaden Daniels. I really don't think he's going to have that sophomore slump. I don't. Like, I think but I think the team overall is going to come back a little bit. I think teams are going to have more film on
Mhm.
them. I don't like, as you said, I also don't like when there's noise in the offseason. And they made a lot of moves. They made, they bring in Laramie Tunsil, they bring in Debo, they traded Brian Robinson, they've done all of these things. They very much feel like the Houston Texans of last year. Wow, the first year, surprising year, basement team to first place, a playoff win. A lot of hope, Super Bowl aspirations in year two. Let's make all these moves. Let's bring in Diggs. Let's do all these crazy things. And it just they're solid, but they're just not what we thought they were going to be. I think the Commanders scream that this year, and then the Eagles. I mean, there's nothing to say. I mean, they're going to be great. Even when they get rid of guys and guys naturally leave, like a Milton Williams, it doesn't matter. They find guys. Howie Roseman finds guys in the draft all the time. There's going to be some rookie that pops off your screen this year, and like, wait, how'd this guy drop to the fifth round or something like that? That's just what the Eagles do, and they're going to be good. They have a very unique offense. They have a very loaded offense. Their offensive line, it starts with. They're going to be great. And you know what? I was also, as a side note, Willie Lampkin was a rookie offensive lineman for the Rams. He has a little bit of an injury. The Rams tried to keep him, but they had to cut him at the end of training camp. Well, guess who picked him up? The Philadelphia Eagles. Would not be surprised if I see that guy some point this season get in the little offensive lineman, kind of wheelhouse room that they have there where everyone seems to be great. And I wouldn't be surprised if I see Willie Lampkin bulldozing and pancaking some people. And I'll be very jealous of that. But yeah, that's my NFC East. Bry, what is your NFC South?
Yeah, NFC South, underwhelming division. I
Underwhelming.
mean, yeah, this is one I feel like we kind of can skim through pretty fast
For sure.
because, I mean, a couple of these teams in particular, it's like woof. It's not pretty, and it starts in the bottom where we go to the Bayou and find the New Orleans Saints, where it's pretty bleak. I mean, I don't have a lot of positive things to say about the Saints. They named their starting quarterback a couple weeks ago, and who is it again?
Spencer
I'm
Rattler.
honestly
Yeah, Spencer Rattler.
Spencer Rattler. Thank you. Honestly, it went out of my head. I
Yeah.
couldn't think of it at the moment, but that
Fair.
shows you where the Saints are as an organization. I guess the one bright spot for this team, Alvin Kamara, is still there. He's still
Yeah.
productive. He still can get it done running the ball and catching the ball. But there's just not a lot of hope here. I feel for Kellen Moore as a first year coach who
Yeah.
goes into
He knew
just
what he was getting
an
into.
impossible situation to win. So it's not going to be very good for the Saints this year, and I think they're probably going to finish with the worst record in the league.
Yeah, good chance.
Moving up to number three, Carolina, the second half of last year, they showed some signs of life, and it really started with Bryce Young actually looking like an NFL player, which earlier on in his career, that's something you couldn't necessarily say. I mean, he had the bus label was out in full force for Bryce Young.
Yeah.
He's never going to make it. And then he was benched, and at the time we thought his run in Carolina was going to be done, that they would trade him and that would be the end. Well, instead, Andy Dalton, right, ends up getting hurt, and they go back to Bryce Young, and you know what? He played pretty good football. And so I think this team, they've been among the worst in the league for the last few years. I don't think they come approaching 500, but I do think, they're starting to step in the right direction with Dave Canales and with Bryce Young leading the way, coach and quarterback, respectively. The new receiver, Ted McMillan, first
A lot
round
of hype.
pick, people are high on. Yeah, a lot of hype. So that could give the young quarterback a nice little weapon. So, they got some interesting players in some spots. I think, maybe they could hit the 7-win mark, but I think that's about their ceiling. So I'll have them in third. And second, we're going to go with Atlanta here. I've never been a huge Michael Penix believer. And it seems like, after there were some high thoughts on him earlier on, most people have kind of soured on Penix's prospects at being really good at the pro level. Best thing they have going for them, like the Saints, is at the running back spot where Bijan
Yeah,
Robinson, yeah,
pretty good.
really good. And I think, last year was really good. I think it gets even better for him. I think he's poised to just have a huge season. Drake London, very good a year ago, kind of his coming out party. So offensively, they're kind of interesting. It would be nice if you could get a Kyle Pitts sighting
Please,
at some point.
please.
But the Falcons, to me, they kind of are what they are.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to hover around the 7 or 8 win mark, and that's kind of where I think they'll finish again. And we go to the division winner, which for me, it's a pretty easy pick. I mean, it's the Bucks, who have been kind of the team of this division since bringing in Baker Mayfield, and of course, even before that with the Brady years. But hey, Baker has found a home in Tampa.
Oh,
I mean, you talk about a player that has been completely revitalized. A guy who looked like he was a bust early in his career with Cleveland. He bounced around. You saw him with your football team in Carolina, and on it goes. But this guy is now a bona fide, solid to even better than that NFL quarterback.
yeah.
And he's got a good offense around him. And Todd Bowles, I've never been the biggest fan of, but last year, I'd say he kind of proved me wrong. They played with a toughness, and I just think it's about that offense. You get Godwin back healthy eventually. Mike Evans and his Mr. 1,000 yards every season. Bucky Irving running the ball. Lot to like about this team. I think they're going to be really good, even better than last year, and take this division crown once again.
Brian, you know what I'm getting the vibe of as we do these is maybe we're not cheating off of each other. Maybe just the league is a little bit predictable this year because I
I see that.
yeah, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we have was this the third or fourth division in a row? We have the same exact thing. I think the Saints are going to be.
I will say when we get to the north, I guarantee
I
it's
think
going
the
to be
North
different.
and the West. I think both of those divisions were going to be very different.
I will just say right now, with the north, I was feeling a little spunky.
Oh, okay. I like that. I love that. That's what they call in the business, ladies and gentlemen, a tease. I love that. But back to the NFC South for me. Saints, I think, are going to be the worst or second worst team in the league. I think they're going to be horrible. Look, if you're a Saints fan, it is what it is. You guys kind of sold your soul to the devil, maybe pun intended, because you're in the bayou there. And you made a choice. You had a lot of voodoo going on into your team, and you had Breeze. You had to go for it. I totally get it. You missed the mark. You got close a couple times. I understand that. But you're in cap hell. You're in cap hell for the next like 3 years after this. This is going to be one of the bigger rebuilds we've ever seen in NFL history. I don't even know why Kellen Moore honestly took this job. I get there's
Yeah, I
there's
don't know.
there's only 32. I totally understand that, but like this is not the one to take, man. It just wasn't. You know, you're starting Spencer Rattler, who I've never been high on. Then the second round Tyler Shuck. I mean, come, what are we doing? I mean, this is ridiculous. Kamara should find it. They should honestly trade him, get some kind of value over him, get him off this team. There's nobody there. They're going to be in rough shape. There's no more Michael Thomas. Tyrann Mathieu retired. All these leadership guys, how much are Olave, who I like, and Shaheed going to be able to do anything? I think it's going to be a really rough year down in New Orleans. The Panthers are at number 3 in third place. I do think there's going to be a little bit of progress, but I'm just never a fan of short quarterbacks. And I just don't know if Bryce has done enough to really show me. He was a first overall pick, Bry. Like I just don't know if it's like I feel like sometimes we're kind of talking down to him. We're like, "Hey, nice job." It's like this guy was a first overall pick. We should expect a lot more out of this dude. Okay, he's not getting participation trophies out here. I think there needs to be more out of the Carolina Panthers, and I just don't think there's going to be. Like, could they be 6 or 7 wins? Sure, maybe they're a little feisty, but I need more when you're going to year 3 or whatever him, and I just don't feel like we're going to get that. The Falcons are at the number 2 spot for me, and they are literally for me the definition of If you had to describe when an NFL team was mid, what would you pick? I would pick the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
I mean, they're mid. They're just nothing. They're 8-9. They're 9-8. They're 7-10. They're right around there. Like they'll have some games where people are like, damn, they put up 38 points and all these guys went crazy. And then they'll have other games where it's like, yeah, they have 12 points, and Penix threw 3 picks. And like, it's just like they don't feel like a lot. And I think I'm a little bit higher on Michael Penix than you are. I watched him play in college. I think he does throw a beautiful football. I do think there's some hope there. But defensively, am I excited outside of like Jesse Bates? Not really. And it just feels like with Raheem Morris, like they're just mid. They're just static. They're not going to get anywhere really. And then number one, and I think far and away for me, number one out of any of these divisions so far, the gap between the Bucks and the second place team, I think is going to be that significant. I am very high on the Tampa Bay Bucks this year. To me, Baker Mayfield is not only rescued his career, right? He wins Offensive Rookie of the Year, then looks like a bust. He bounced around, as you said. To me, he's a top 10 quarterback. Like, I think this guy threw over 40 touchdowns last year. Like, put some respect on Baker Mayfield's name. And I love the rookie, Emeka and Buka. I wish the Rams got him out of Ohio State. You get Godwin back later in the year. Mr. Consistency and Mike Evans, Bucky Irving. Rashard White is still there. I really like what the Bucks have going on there, and they just have like a stability. Even if they're not crazy on defense, I believe in what Todd Bowles can provide there. I think they are going to far and away take that division, and I'm really excited to see what they have to offer. Well, Bry, let's get to the final two divisions where I think we are going to have a lot of shakeups. Let's start in the NFC North, Bry. Who's in the basement for you?
Yeah, so this division, I admit, was I was feeling frisky.
All right,
So
I like
we'll
that. You always
get
are in the
right
NFC
here.
North.
This seems to be my division. Yeah, well, because like you said, there's a lot of predictability
Yeah,
in most of these divisions. I feel like we're going to end up having just about all the same playoff teams as
it
what
very
we
much
saw
feels like that.
last year. To see some change, but on paper, it just kind of feels like how it's going to go. But this is the one division where I feel like there could be a wide array of results. I mean, you could have people high on the Bears. You could have people high on the Lions. You could have people high on any of the four teams, frankly. But for me, this is how I see it shaking out. And we start with number four. And you probably aren't going to be surprised by this because this team last year, I was down on them when so many people were up. Well, you go into this year, so many people are up again. I think it'll be
Same.
better, but not good enough to be better than the other three teams. And we start with the Chicago Bears. And I know this
Never
team
believe it.
is everybody's darling. With the new coach, the offensive genius there coming over, Ben Johnson. But the Bears, they're kind of like the NFC version of the
They
Jets
really
in a
are.
lot of ways, right? You need to see it before you can actually predict it.
Yeah.
And so I look, I like a lot of the things they did in the offseason. They went to work on that offensive line. That's a big deal. Last year,
Yeah.
it was an enormous issue for Caleb Williams in his rookie season. I feel like, they're going to be better on that side of the ball. They can get that unit figured out. I feel like Caleb is going to be better than he was, or last year was very inconsistent. I mean, we saw some high highs and low lows, but I'm just not all the way there on the Bears. They
Fair.
to me have a lot to prove, and this division, look, it's a bit wacky. It's competitive. You got some good teams. I don't think they're going to be good enough to be better than the other three. Now we go to number three, and here's where you might go, oh wow.
Don't do it.
I'm going Lions, number
Wow.
three.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I'm putting the Lions in the number three spot. I feel like it was almost too easy for them last year in the regular season. That offense just ran like a machine. And now suddenly, you got some changes there. You lose both coordinators. That is a big deal right there. Look at how much the Eagles dropped after losing two coordinators.
Yeah.
They had that year in between the two Super Bowl appearances where they just flamed out at the end of the season, limped into the playoffs, and were a complete non-factor in that game against Tampa Bay. I just see the Lions not running as smoothly. Like that offense was just, like I said, I felt like it was too good to be true last year. And now, you just don't have quite the same cohesiveness, right? Some changes on the offensive line. That was very much the driving force for this team. Suddenly now you got Gibbs in the top spot at running back where they were going with the duo and it was working out great. And I think Gibbs will be really good, but can he handle the mantle of being, 30 carries a game where he always had the security of Montgomery there? I also think the playoff loss last year, that took a lot of sting out of this team. So I just think they're going to struggle a bit more than we're used to seeing the last couple of years. Still be good. I mean, I think there's three really good teams in this division, but I have them taking a step back regular season wise, third place for Detroit. Number two, very interesting team here, and I'm going the Green Bay Packers in the number two spot.
Okay, all
So
right.
I told you I was feeling frisky with this division. I knew we were going to have some differences, and I think it's pretty clear that we do. The Packers, eh, this team I look at and I say I love just about everything about them, and I have questions about the quarterback. We talked about Micah Parsons. Obviously, that's his new home. This defense has a chance to be great. I mean, I think Parsons is going to feast with Green Bay. I love the fit there. I feel like it was a huge, huge move for a franchise that doesn't go out like that and
Nope.
spend big money on players from other teams. They went out and did it here. But for me, with the Packers, it comes down to what are we getting at Jordan Love? We need to see a better version of Jordan Love. If you tell me he's going to be really good, this team has Super Bowl capabilities.
Fair.
Like I think they're that good, but I just think the quarterback does hold them back a bit. So I have them in second place. And division winner, I'm going back to the well. Going back to the
You
well
love this
and
team,
my
man.
Minnesota Vikings. And last year, look, this team looked like they were the best in football for a good part of the year. And it's easy to forget because of how it ended, and we saw how your team just
Yeah, how'd that
trounced
playoff
them.
game go, baby?
And they had the no-show the last game of the season in Detroit, but they were cruising. What were they? 13-2. Darnold's having a career season. I just feel like the way they set up their offense is so quarterback friendly. They got the best out of Darnold. I'm high on what JJ McCarthy can bring to this team. I think he's going to have a big time rookie season. I love what they have in place on offense. It's not a great sign that, Justin Jefferson's already dealing with an injury in preseason. That bears watching. I don't love the fact that Jordan Addison is starting with a suspension, but I do love bringing back Adam Thielen, how good he was there. That's an underrated, solid move. They kind of went to work in the offseason beefing up that defense. So I think the Vikings have themselves another very, very strong season. Maybe a surprise. I'm going with them as the division winner.
Wow, that is the most shocking. That we had a lot of the same exact things the last like four divisions. That is crazy, man. That is I love it. I love getting a little bit wild, getting a little bit outside the box. And if there's one thing you should know about Brian, ladies and gentlemen, is that he is very down on the Bears no matter what happens, and he is very up on the Vikings. And look, you were right on both accounts last year. I was wrong on both accounts last year. So kudos to you, man. Hats off for that, and we'll see how that plays out. We are very different, as you would expect, because for me in the NFC
Yeah,
North,
I
at,
figured.
at number 4, I have the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're going to really
Oh
struggle.
boy.
All the points that you said, I have the exact ones in favor of myself. So Addison's out for 4 games. Jefferson's dealing with a hamstring injury. We saw him miss games last year. You have an old Aaron Jones there. Is the offensive line, they're okay. J.J. McCarthy never threw over like 22 passes a game in college. Now he's getting thrown into a pass-happy offense under Kevin O'Connell. The defense, yeah, they're okay. I'm just not as high on them as you are. So I think they have a lot of questions. Even though I respect Kevin O'Connell, I really think 14 games last year, they were so high. Now you got to replace Sam Darnold, wherever you think of him, and 35 touchdowns. You get sacked 9 times. You get blown out in the wild card round where you displaced in Arizona. I think that does a lot to them. I think they take a huge step back this year. I got them at number 4. At number 3, I want to believe in this team so bad, but I can't until they prove it to me. It's the Chicago Bears. Like, do I think they're going to be better and more competent? Absolutely. I believe in the coaching staff so much more. Last year, I had them finishing, I think, second, winning a playoff game. That was completely wrong. I mean, I should have known better under Matt, Eberflus. Like, they weren't going to do anything. I think Johnson, I think, is going to be a significantly better coach. I love the way that he has kind of been really tough on these guys, particularly Caleb Williams in training camp. You listen to some of his press conferences, like he has run a tight, like Dan Campbell, like dare I say, like a Bill Parcells style kind of camp where he is hard on these dudes. He's really been difficult and he's expecting the most out of them. And I appreciate that he's trying to change the culture there in such a significant way. They've went through an ownership change there with obviously their owner passing away last year. I think we're going to see Caleb Williams take a step forward. I like the pieces that they've brought in on the offensive line. The Bears usually do defense well. I just don't know if it's going to be enough to bolster them in the top 2 in that division. For me, at number 2 is the Packers. I think some people are a little bit too high on them. I think before the Michael Parsons trade, people were a little too down on them. I think they're right in the middle at second place. They're a solid 10-11 win team. Look, LaFleur has shown us year after year after year he's a damn good coach. He was winning with Malik Willis last year. I do have questions as well, like you do, of Jordan Love. I think that is totally warranted. And before the Michael Parsons trade, on both sides of the ball, I would have said, I mean, they're good, but like, is anyone a superstar in this team? It just feels like they have a lot of solid, okay players. Now I think you add a
Mm-hmm.
superstar, barring his back injury, if it is an actual injury. With Michael Parsons, I think he just really bolsters that defense. And Jordan Love, he's got to take the step forward here. You get a first-round pick in Matthew Golden. They finally, since I think 2002, finally took a wide receiver in the first round. He's got to show up. He's got to be a number 1. I'm expecting big things out of him. Jordan Love and this team, I got them at number 2. And at number 1, it's the Detroit Lions. I think the coordinators thing, I think, in my opinion, it's a little overblown. I think it's going to affect them. I just believe in the culture that they have set. Now, I don't think they're going to be, would they win 15 games last year? I don't think they're going to be that. They might be 11 wins, and that feels like a huge drop off, right? But they're still going to be a very good competitive team. You got Jared Goff, you got Gibbs and Montgomery, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got Jamison Williams. You add in there Laporta. Like, they have a really good offense here. Defensively, yeah, it leaves a little bit to be desired. Is Aiden Hutchinson going to be the same? Can some of these other guys show up? Sure. But I think they have one of the best home field advantages in the sport. I think their offense is electric. I think they're going to be a really excellent team. Well, Bri, we have made it to my division, my team's division, the last division, ladies and gentlemen, before we do some awards predictions, and then we're going to do a lightning round of week 1 picks, and then we are out of here. It is the NFC West, Bri, starting in last place. What do you got, man? Final division.
Yeah, it certainly takes a lot of time going through all the divisions 1 through 4, but hey, gotta get our
I love it.
picks in for the season. And yeah, this division we probably are gonna have another couple disagreements. I think as you forecasted. Starting in the 4th spot, I'm going Seattle. Fourth. This team,
All right.
a lot of turnover. Uh, during the off season, obviously new quarterback in place as Sam Darnold takes over, but in a considerably less desirable situation as he was in a year ago. I just don't see him having the kind of success that he did as a Viking. Bring in Cooper Cup, but he's on the older side now. In the second half of last year, his production fell off dramatically.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he could be serviceable, but not the kind of impact player we saw for so many years as a Ram, where he's basically an all-time great LA Ram. And
Legend.
look, you got Jackson Smith and Jigba there, but weapons wise, there's just not a whole lot for Darnold to work with. I wasn't really big on what I saw out of Mike McDonald in his first year as the head coach. I think, it's a big step back from what they had for so many years. Pete Carroll. Kenneth Walker is already dealing with an injury before the season starts. That's
Yep.
a big loss. And defensively, they're not nearly what they were in the Legion of Boom era, to say the least. So I I don't think they're a bad team, but I think in a division where you got a lot of competition, again, like some of these other divisions we talked about, I think they're the team that gets the short end of the stick. Third, I'm gonna put the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, they're kind of an enigma for me. Kyler Murray is kind of an enigma. We've seen high highs from him and low lows. So I don't know exactly what we're getting out of him, and I don't know what exactly we're getting out of Marvin Harrison, who came
Yeah.
into the league with an awful lot of fanfare, and it was up and down to say the least as a rookie for Harrison. I mean, there were just some complete no shows. So I have to think he'll be better, but yeah, I know some people are high on this Arizona team.
They
I'm
are.
more thinking like they're in the 7-8 kind of win area. So I'm a little more down on them. And then second place, I'm going San Francisco. Last year things did not go well for the 49ers. I mean, it was just a myriad of issues from injury to, things happening off the field to contract disputes, everything under the sun seemingly stacking against this Niner team. Top to bottom, I think they're one of the more talented teams in all of football, but it just seems like there's always something that they're dealing with here. And I just wonder offensively, you got a lot of injury kind of prone players. McCaffrey showed his injury warts last year. You no longer have Debo aboard. What's Brandon Ayuk going to be after just a no show last year? So, on the defensive side, you got Nick Bosa and company, but I'm not ready to put the 49ers back as a division leader. I like the fact that they got the Brock Purdy deal done, but is he enough of a difference maker? Like, I think he's a good player. I don't
That's a
think
big
he's a
question.
great player. Yeah, so I'm going Niners too. And division winner, I'm taking your football team,
I hope
the
so.
LA Rams. So I'm sure your pick is not going to be the Rams as the division winner. We'll find out in a couple minutes. But I just feel like for the Rams, last hurrah here for Stafford. I,
Yeah.
I know
Feels
that
like it.
health has been a concern, but I like the fact that he's been able to get back on the practice field. If he can get through this season healthy, I know the offensive line, as you always point out, is an issue, but I
Yeah.
feel like this offense can be lethal if they can keep him upright with that duo of receivers, Puka and Devontae Adams. I think they're going to feast this year. I think Devontae in that offense is going to be dynamite with all the attention on Puka. You got Kyron Williams signed, and defensively, as you know better than anyone, they're young, they're hungry. They had some players, Jared Verse, of course, big time as a rookie. They can make some noise. And let's not forget, this was the team that last year had the best chance of taking down the team that eventually won it all
They did.
in Philadelphia. They were
Yeah,
right
they were very
there.
good
They
that
were
game.
on the brink. We thought they were had that game won after Stafford gets them down
Ah,
the field. They stalled, and that was the end of that. But I think the Rams have a lot left in the tank here. Keeping Stafford healthy, a big key, but I think they have a chance to be really good. So I have your team winning this division.
I love that. Bry, for the final prediction here, the NFC West for me. For me, we're very different again. At number 4 for me is the Arizona Cardinals. I just think they're, again, another one of these teams, prove it or shut up. I think there's a lot of hype here again. I've seen some people picking them first place, second place in the division. Do I think they're solid and better than they were in years past? I do like Jonathan Gannon. I like some of these pieces they added to the defense. But this is the same old story with the Cardinals. They get out to a hot start, 3-0, 4-0, and we get to about the three-quarter mark of the season, and Kyler Murray drops off a cliff, starts getting a little banged up. His play drops off a cliff, and it's the exact same thing. Remember last year, I'll never forget, beating the Rams, do the old yawn emoji like it was so easy. And then we end up beating them later in the season. They're a fourth-place team or third-place team, almost fourth place, not even close to winning it all, and we win the division. It's just what they do. And I do think I agree with you, a lot of the hype around Marvin Harrison Jr. is one of the greatest receivers we've ever seen come into the league. I thought he was extremely underwhelming last year. Now, was that him? Was that the quarterback? Was it both? Who knows? But I think there's a lot more pieces that they have to provide outside of maybe him and Trey McBride on offense. And Kyler's really got to prove it. He's had one successful season. He got to the playoffs and got destroyed by the Rams. So I need to see a little bit more at him before I'm having any more faith. And number 3 for me, a little bit of a shocker. I went back and forth with this. I don't like the vibes or anything that's come out of this or really a lot of their offseason moves. I'm putting the San Francisco 49ers here. I think the Niners are going to take a massive step back, and I'll give a little bit of a spoiler here. I think for the first time in the Kyle Shanahan era, I think they're going to have back-to-back non-playoff seasons. I think this is going to be a really tough year. Brock Purdy is good. I think we're both in that same boat. He's not great. He's not, what's the old Charles Barkley saying, right? Like he's not the bus driver, right? He's really one of the passengers. That's really what he feels like. And McCaffrey, he could be great. He's one of those players in the league, could be elite, and also could be hurt by week 5. Like, to varying degree there, it looks like Ayuk is not going to start the season after his knee got blown out last year. Is he going to be the same? There is no more Debo. Kittle's a year older. I think he'll be solid, but we counting on Ricky Parasol here. We know Williams is an amazing left tackle. He's another year older. The rest of the offensive line I don't love. And then this defense outside of Nick Bosa is very young and very gutted. Like, I do like that Robert Saleh got brought back as the defensive coordinator. I think that will help. But I think they have a year of rebuilding. Kyle Shanahan has said some things this training camp. This team reminds me very much of the 2017, 2018 years. And he said, something around there where the Niners were rebuilding, were not in the playoffs. I think if your head coach is saying that, there's kind of some truth to that. And I think where there's some smoke, there's fire. I think they're going to have a little bit tough of a year. I think at number 2 is going to be the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not just saying that because, I don't expect them to be number 1. I think this Stafford back injury thing, I think, is a real thing. I think Alaric Jackson, the left tackle that they signed in the offseason, brought back our guy. He's dealing with blood clot issues. We don't know if he's going to play this coming week against Houston. And the problem with the Rams in these last few years, particularly offensively, has been this offensive line. Rob Havenstein on the other side, another year older. You bring back Coleman Shelton. Is Steve Avila going to be the same as he was in his rookie year? Kevin Dotson has a holding issues. I think there's a lot of questions there. So I'm a little bit concerned with the offensive line. I think the defense is going to be great. I think it's young. Is there some weaknesses at the secondary? Sure. But I think we have some young linebackers that are going to surprise. I think that front 7, and particularly that front 4, is going to be ferocious. I really like what we're providing on that side of the ball. I just don't know if Stafford is going to play all 17 games. I think there might be a little Jimmy Garoppolo. Dare I say that there might be a little Stenson Bennett out there. You never know. So that is something to keep your eye on. I think that's going to cost them a game or 2, and it's going to bring them down to the number 2 spot. And maybe shockingly, but not, without obviously a drum roll here, because you know what I'm going to say. Number 1 is the Seattle Seahawks. I think Seattle Seahawks are getting disrespected. I think they won 10 games last year. I think Sam Darnold, in my mind, is kind of the same, maybe, dare I say, even a little bit of an upgrade over Geno Smith. I like Greg Zabel in the offensive line, what he's been doing, pancaking guys in the preseason. JSN, I think Cooper Kupp is now in a new spot, can have a bounce-back year, maybe some revenge against my Rams, unfortunately. I like Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker. They have a young, really solid defense that is extremely underrated. I like what I see in Seattle and Mike McDonald, and I believe it's going to be neck and neck with the Rams all year, 10, 11 wins. But I think ultimately, whether it's a tiebreaker or maybe one more game, they're going to pull it out. The Seattle Seahawks, in my opinion, will win the NFC West in 2025.
That is a very interesting call there on your part. So you have them winning the division. I have them in last. That's two divisions that we have
I
one
know.
first fourth split. So that's pretty stark.
Crazy.
It just and then we have other divisions where we agree 1 through 4. So
Well, Bry, now we got to switch over to playoff seeding, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, there'll be tags down below. We'll run through this. Who is your 7-1 in the NFC, Bry? We'll start there. We'll do the opposite this time. Who you got 7-1? Start at number 7. Who's getting in as a wild card team for you?
okay, so I got my 7 teams. So start with the wild card. On the 7th seed Washington. We
Okay.
talked about how we feel like they're not going to be as good. I feel like they make the playoffs, but to me, they're more as the last team in this time around. So I have them 7.
Sure.
Detroit is my 6th seed. So I have them in the playoffs despite my picking of them in third place. I feel like, it's their offense isn't going to run as smoothly. So I got them there. And I've got another NFC North counterpart as my last wild card team, and that would be the Green Bay
Loaded
Packers.
up. All
So
right.
then I rank the division winners, the Rams as the 4th seed. I've got Tampa in the number 3 spot. I've got my Minnesota
You
Vikings
love these
number
rankings,
two,
man.
and number 1 is
Eagles.
the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles.
All
Yeah.
right, Bry. I love it. All right. Let me get down mine, obviously, slightly different, but we're going to get into that. For me, at number 7 in the NFC, I love how we have such differences here. I really do love that. At number 7 for me, I really think it's going to be the Commanders as well. I think they are
Okay.
going to have a step back. They're going to be a good team. They're going to be led by Jaden Daniels. But I think they're going to take a little bit of step back, really outside of the quarterback. I love the quarterback. I can't stress that enough. I just think the rest of the noise around this team, they're going to come back a little bit to the pack. And I don't really love their defense. I know it's Dan Quinn's specialty. There's no one out there where I'm like, God, that guy's amazing. I really think they have a long way to go there. At number 6 for the wild card for me is my Los Angeles Rams. I really do think they are going to struggle in some parts. They're going to be a solid team, maybe can make some noise come the postseason, but I got them at the number 6 seed. I think they're going to go through a little trials and tribulations there. And number 5 is going to be the Green Bay Packers. I think what Micah Parsons is going to do for this defense is going to be extraordinary. I love that part of it, but I have questions about Jordan Love, and I have questions about some of these offensive weapons. Can they take a jump? That's what I want to see. The division winners goes as follows. For number 4, I am taking the Seattle Seahawks. I think it'll be neck and neck. It's going to be a fun division, but I think they're going to be the number 4 seed. At number 3, taking a step back from their number 1 seed last year, will be the Detroit Lions. I think they're steadily into the number 3. At number 2 will be the Tampa Bay Bucks. I am high on the Tampa Bay Bucks. I think they're going to be a damn good team. And at number 1,
Yep.
boringly so, I believe will be the Philadelphia Eagles. I know we're in this market of desperately going, oh, don't take the easy stance. Pick something different. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be right. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be that good. They're going to be the number 1 seed once again. Bry, let's switch over, man, to the AFC for you. Who you got as the number 7 seed?
All right. Well, I'll start with the fact New York Jets. Sorry, I don't have them as a top 7 team in the AFC. I
Nice,
have it as
man.
a non-playoff team. So we'll start with the wild cards. My last team in for the AFC is the Jim Harbaugh-led
Okay.
Los Angeles Chargers. I think they will find their way back to the playoffs as they did a year ago. I think they will be as good, if not better, and find their way into the playoffs. At 6 is another team in the division. I think both you and I agree. Denver is my number 6 team, led by the quarterbacking of Bo Nix. Number 5, I talked about their high flying offense. And this is the one team that I have making the playoffs that did not make it a season ago, and
Okay.
that would be the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay. Love
So
it.
I've got them as my top wild card team, and then I rank the division winners like this: Houston Texans, number 4. The Chiefs, number 3. I feel
Wow.
like they're
Okay.
not going to be number 2 because they're going to do what the Chiefs do, and that's not be as dominant. And I've got Buffalo, number 2,
Ravens.
before the number 1 overall seed in the AFC, the Baltimore
Very,
Ravens.
very similar if it works out that way as 2 years ago when the Ravens hosted the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. That's how that would work out. All right, Brian, I love it. All right, for me, the AFC is interesting, but I think as follows: I'm not believing in the Jets. I'm not believing in the Las Vegas Raiders or the Pittsburgh Steelers. For number 7, the last wild card team in, for me, I think the Cincinnati Bengals sneak in. I think they're going to be like a 9-8 sort of team. Their defense is going to struggle, but I can't imagine Joe Burrow being out of the playoffs 3 straight years in a row. I just can't. I believe they can get over this hump. Trey Henderson, Samar Stewart can do enough. They sneak in at number 7. At number 6 for me, Brian, I know I can see it right now. I know you're going to roll your eyes. I know you're going to. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars, okay? The Jaguars are getting to the playoffs. You can roast me right now. Trevor Lawrence is leading this team back to the playoffs. I got them at number 6 in the seeds. At number 5, it's the Denver Broncos. I think they're going to be an improved team. They go from 7 to 5 from last year to this year. I think they get in as a wild card. At the number 4, I think is going to be the Houston Texans. I really think, again, they're going to be led by their defense. I think they're going to really struggle on offense, but they're going to be a good team, the class, for whatever that's worth, of the AFC South. And, hey, it's been proven when they get in there, they do win a playoff game. It does happen. At number 3 for me, going back and forth, I decided, what is this going to be? How do I see this team? They're a regular season juggernaut. I still think it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to be the 3rd seed here. They're going to be good, but I think the division is a little bit tougher than the East. I don't trust their pedigree as much, even though it's the regular season, that the Chiefs, and I'm putting them at number 3. At number 2, I'm putting the Kansas City Chiefs. I think there'll be a little bit of bumps going through this, but I think they're going to be steadfast at the number 2 spot. Nothing to be ashamed about. Probably 12 or 13 wins. And then number 1, Buffalo. I mean, not only have the reigning MVP, you're in a, let's be honest, you're kind of in a joke of a division. They're a great team in the regular season as well. Even if they don't beat the Ravens this year, they always beat the Chiefs. It's kind of the triangle of how those games go. I think they will be the top seed in the AFC. Give me the Buffalo Bills. So, Brian, we picked our seeds. We've done all of that.
Yep.
Now we're in the wild card. As a refresher, Bry, for you, we'll start in the AFC. You would have in your lineup the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Buffalo Bills. Who you got in that one?
Yeah, I've got Buffalo.
Okay. Then you would have the Broncos traveling to Kansas City, a little kind of division matchup in the wild card round. Who you got there?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the atmosphere for that game would
Great.
be something. The
Yeah.
playoff game between those two teams, I think it would be a heck of a game, but in this matchup, I'm just trusting the Chiefs' pedigree and their, the fact that you can't kill them. I'm going with the Chiefs in that game.
And your final wild card one in the AFC would then be the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Houston. Does Houston do what they've done? And even if they have an okay season, they somehow come back and win a wild card game. Who you got going there?
Yeah, this takes you back to the days where how many years in a row did Andy Dalton's Bengals play the
So
Texans
true.
in what was always like that first game of the playoff weekend, and it was never a good game. I mean, Andy Dalton's Bengals were terrible, and the Texans, with a myriad of different quarterbacks, always seem, yeah, TJ Yates always seem to come out on top. No, this time I'm going Cincinnati to get it done in the playoffs behind their high flying offense. I've got the Bengals.
I love that. Bry, for me, And all the matchups here I have in the illustrious AFC. I love how my wild card weekend worked out. There's just something magical
Yeah.
about it. And I think the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to the
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City Chiefs to kick off the
Oh,
wild
that's
card
cool.
weekend, probably being that prime Sunday night slot to kick off some AFC. I think that
Yeah.
could be so fun. I would not be surprised if Joe Cool and the Bengals could pull off a miracle, but I'm not going to pick that. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to knock out the Bengals. They're going to rip their hearts out once again. And I got the number 2 Chiefs advancing in the wild card round. My beloved Jags at the number 6 seed. They're going to be going in a tough
Don't pick
matchup
them.
here to the Baltimore Ravens, and I think the Ravens are going to dispatch
Oh,
them. I just don't think it matches up. I think the
I would
Jags,
say,
they have a long way to go. I think it'll still be a fun story, but I think the Ravens are going to end up pulling that off.
I'm gonna predict the score for that game, 35-7.
Okay, that's rude. That's rude right there. That's crazy. And my final AFC wild card one for that weekend. The number 5 seeded Denver Broncos traveling to Houston. I think Houston still, they have something in the water about them winning these wild card games. I'm taking the Houston Texans once again.
They
I think they're
do.
going to knock off the Broncos and they're going to win it. Bry, we'll switch over to the NFC. For you, who you got for the wild card as a refresher for the audience and for yourself? You have the Washington Commanders traveling to your beloved Minnesota Vikings. Who's winning that one?
That's right. I'm going Vikings. We're gonna see how far I can take him this year, but I got him advancing there. Well, you have him as a last place team. Boy, this is gonna be
Oh, it's going
interesting.
to be a fun year, Bry. I
Um,
can't wait. Then you have the 6
and
seed
sure,
Detroit Lions going to Tampa Bay. Who you got in there?
yeah, this a really interesting game. We saw it in the playoffs a couple of years ago, and I feel like with the Lions, like it's gonna be a case of regular season not being as good, but maybe better once the playoffs roll around. And the Bucks, while I feel like are going to have a very good regular season, I feel like this spot is ripe for an upset. I'm going Detroit to knock them off.
Oh, okay. A little NFC North love going on here. I see what you're doing. All right. And then you would have in your final spot the Packers traveling to LA to face the Rams. Who you got in that one?
Yeah, so the NFC North love continues. As you know, the Rams have really struggled against the Packers
Yeah.
in recent years. I think even Rams with the home field advantage, I don't think it matters here. I think the Packers get it done on the road. So I've got a clean sweep for the NFC North.
Yes, you do. That actually is surprising. I did not actually expect you to do that. But hell, I would love to see that as well. Although, of course, I would love the Rams to win. But, I mean, look at 2020, right? Like, they lost in the divisional round to Green Bay. They just somehow cannot beat that team. Probably for me, the wild card of the NFC will be the Washington Commanders heading to Tampa Bay. I think this could be a lot of fun. We've seen this matchup before in the playoffs. I think Tampa Bay is going to dispatch them in a really good game. We just saw it last year where the Commanders got the Bucks. I think we flip flop and the Bucks will get the Commanders this time around. The LA Rams at the number 6 seed will travel to Detroit. I mean, again, let's build in the storylines I am to this season once again. Playing them, I think this is where the Rams season for the second time in 3 years will come to an end. I think the Detroit Lions will win that game. And then for me, having the number 4 and the number 5 seeds, we will have the beloved Packers traveling to Seattle. And I think the Seahawks will knock off the Green Bay Packers and they will win and head to the divisional round.
Wow, you like this Seattle team a lot.
I do. I'm feeling this team. I'm obviously hoping I'm wrong because I'm rooting for the Rams, but that is my predictions. I got to be honest, and that is what I am feeling. Bry, we're headed to the divisional round in the AFC for you. Big storylines on the line, as they always are. As a refresher, of course, you had Bills, Chiefs, and Bengals as your wild card winners, your number one overall seed was the Baltimore Ravens, which out of all of this would make the Bengals head to Baltimore. Who you got winning that in the divisional round?
Yeah, so this one might get your jaw to drop,
I
but
know.
I say the Ravens' issues in the playoffs continue and they fall against their divisional counterparts. I'm buying Cincinnati stock this year. I
People
think they're
cursing you
going
out,
on a run
huh?
here going into Baltimore. I'm taking the Bengals.
Wow, I am genuinely shocked by that. Damn. And then your other game in the divisional round for the AFC, of course, would be a legendary matchup. Once again, Chiefs, Bills. Who you got in that one?
I mean, I guess law says we have to see this matchup like every year.
Every single year.
We have seen so many of these games, and look, they're always
They
tremendous
are.
games. Um, I'm going Buffalo, and I
All
know
right.
it might be a
Okay.
surprise here, but I just feel like eventually the tide turns. You know, Josh Allen is
Law of
just
averages would say
that
so.
good, that dynamic of a player. I think this time the Bills exact their revenge and finally get one against the Chiefs.
All right. I kind of like that. I think the law of averages, as it said, Patrick Mahomes cannot make the playoffs every single season. And if he does, he also can't make the Super Bowl every single season. At some point, some of these runs have to end. Even Tom Brady didn't make the playoffs every year. And obviously Tom Brady went a 10-year stretch of not going to the Super Bowl. Some point this dominance, and I'm not wishing anything bad things. I'm just saying you can't imagine the law of averages. It keeps working out for Patrick Mahomes. So, Bry, for me, for the AFC, for the divisional round, of course, I have the Ravens in there. I have the Bills in there. I have the Chiefs in there, and I have the Texans. And if that sounds familiar, it was the exact same thing as last season. I think that is what
Exactly.
is going to break down because, look, it's done by quarterbacks, it's done by culture, and that's what we're going to see play out. In this scenario, it would be Texans and Buffalo. I think Buffalo will win there. And then you'll get a classic round two matchup Ravens, Chiefs. And once again, and I'm sorry to say it just like Brian did, till you prove it to me, Lamar, I have to take the Chiefs there. I cannot pick the Ravens, and that is where I am going. As we seem, mine's a little bit different than yours. Yours is divisional, mine is conference. We seem to have the Chiefs and the Bills play every single year. Bry, to the
Yeah.
NFC divisional round, you had advancing the Vikings, the Lions, the Packers, all NFC North teams, and your top seeded team was the Philadelphia Eagles. So in that way, it would be Detroit headed to Philadelphia. Who you got?
Yeah, I have Philly here. I feel like
Okay.
it's not a good matchup for the Lions, and I had them, getting further than you probably would have thought, being one of the wild card teams, and me having them finish in third place in the division. So I'm taking Philly to get back to the NFC title game, which seems to be a familiar spot for them in recent years.
And then you would have your beloved Vikings against the Green Bay Packers. What an awesome divisional matchup we would have in the divisional round. Who you got?
Yeah, this is I would really look forward to this game. I mean, this would be a tremendous game. I kind of gone back and forth on this one, but I feel like the ultimate decision maker is what the Packers did with the trade of Micah Parsons. So I feel like that's going to put them over the top here, and I just feel like Green Bay is due for a big time season. I think they win this one, despite the fact that it would be on the road. I'm taking the Packers.
For me in the NFC, I mean, those would be great matchups to see. But for me in the NFC, in the divisional round, I, of course, have the top seeded Eagles, the number two Bucks advancing, my seemingly beloved Seattle Seahawks, and then the Detroit Lions. I believe those are the teams that we will see in the divisional round. And of course, the Seahawks would be playing the Eagles, a matchup of the birds, something we saw back in the Russell Wilson days, and I think the Eagles will win it. And then Bucks Lions, man, we got this a couple of years ago in the playoffs, was a great, fantastic game. I think this is where Detroit's heart is ripped out of their chest once again, and the Tampa Bay Bucks are headed to the NFC Championship to play the Philadelphia Eagles. That's how my divisional round is going. Bry, we head over to the AFC. Your conference championship is Bengals Bills for the first time in history. No Patrick Mahomes since he's been playing. Who's going to the Super Bowl in the AFC, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna, our good friend, of course, Dylan, is gonna have to, close his ears for this and, maybe another pick coming up. But I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. I think it's their time now. Look, this team has been knocking on the door for several years. I think if they can get over the hump of the Chiefs, that's the biggest obstacle, of course, that they have to face. Then not that the Bengals are going to be easy, but it's definitely a lesser matchup for them to go up against. I think that is what gets them over the top and into the Super Bowl for the first time with Josh Allen.
I love that. For me in the AFC, it's another classic matchup of Chiefs Bills, and I sadly am agreeing with you. I think finally the Bills cross the threshold and they make it to the Super Bowl. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to be a great game. In the NFC, Bry, you have Eagles Packers. We just saw this in the wild card round. Wasn't really a great game. Now we're seeing it in your NFC championship. Who's going to the Super Bowl on the NFC side, Bry?
I'm taking Philly to get knocked off and not
Wow, look
get
at
back
that
to the
little
Super Bowl.
misdirection.
I like Green Bay to represent the NFC
Okay.
in this year's Super Bowl.
Wow. Okay. For me, on my side of it, I had my number one and number two seeds kind of boring in the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Philadelphia Eagles. But this is where the Bucks come to an end. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are just that good, and for the third time in 4 years, and back to back, the Eagles will be the representative of the NFC in the Super Bowl. And Brian, now for you, you got the Bills on the AFC side and the Packers on the NFC side. Who's winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah, well, it looks like, we have a chance to both have the exact same Super Bowl winner, which again was not planned, folks.
No,
So it would
we don't
really
know.
be interesting if it did work out. And as I shouted out earlier, our good friend Dylan, he's not going to be happy with
Not gonna
me.
like it.
Maybe he'd be happy with you. Wouldn't be happy just the fact that they're going to win the division, because if he were making his predictions, he'd probably, I don't know who he'd pick, but he'd find a way not to pick the Bills. But I have the Buffalo Bills as this season's Super Bowl champion. I said before, knocking on the door, I feel like this is their year to break through. I really just comes down to Allen being that good. I really just think he's that good of a player, and it's the Bills. Their first Super Bowl.
Well, Bry, for me, on one side it's the Eagles, and the other side it's the Bills. I know it's boring. I know it's unlikely, and it never happens, and it's very rare to see back-to-back champions. But I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win it again. I think they are
Really?
that much above the league. I think it's going to be a fantastic Super Bowl, not like the Super Bowl that we just got. I think these teams can match up. They're physical, but I think at the end of the day, the Eagles, they're just superior right now. Even though I don't really agree or even think their head coach is fantastic, he has some concoction that gets it done there in Philadelphia. I think their quarterback is underrated. I think their team overall is a really good team. And I think they're a very unique style with the tush push and other things they do. I think the Eagles are going back to back over the Buffalo Bills. It's gonna be a fun season, Bry. That was a hell of a run there. And before we get to the lightning round predicting our week one games, we got to go back to the well, Bry. We did all of the predictions, ladies and gentlemen, your divisions, your playoffs. Everything will be timestamped for you. Bry, quick. Who you got as NFL MVP in the 2025 season?
Yeah, it might not be a huge surprise based on, how I've talked about him, as we've gone along here. But my MVP, Joe Burrow. I think
Okay.
he is going to claim his first MVP this season with his great array of weapons and be, obviously the biggest reason why Cincinnati gets as far as they do this year. So I'm going to go maybe a little off the board here, but I'm going Burrow.
For me, even though I have them as the number 3 seed in the AFC, I just don't think it's going to matter. I think Lamar Jackson's getting back to the top of the mountain. Some people said he was robbed last year. He should have won it over Josh Allen. I think he reclaims that spot and gets his third MVP of his career. Bry, offensive player of the year for the league. Who you picking?
Yeah, maybe a little outside the box pick here. I know Jamar Chase is a popular pick, and I'm high on Cincinnati,
You
but
certainly are.
I just feel like Bijan Robinson is going to run wild this year and have kind of a Saquon Barkley esque season from a year ago. Maybe not quite as good as Barkley, but I just feel like he's going to be the guy at the running back position. The Falcons are going to be so reliant on him. He's going to carry the ball early and often, and I think post huge numbers. So I'm going Robinson.
I'm going in a similar vein as you because I'm staying in the NFC and I'm staying at running back. I think Jameer Gibbs is going to win
Okay.
Offensive Player of the Year. I think he's now taking over the starting role. Yes, you'll have Montgomery there, but I think that's going to be a lot of goal line and kind of, spelling him a little bit when he's tired. I think what he can do as a receiver, his game breaking speed, what he's going to do kind of being a bell cow, I like him as actually Offensive Player of the Year. Bry, who's your defensive player of the year?
Well, I don't love the Steelers. I don't love the fact that Aaron Rodgers is there and that whole thing. But I'm gonna go with T.J. Watt, who is obviously an exceptional player. Has to stay healthy. That's a big key. But the Steelers and their hallmark of defense and how good Watt is, I think he's gonna be the guy this year on that side.
I might not agree with this player's off the field stuff, surely, but on the field, you can't deny the player that he has been. I think the defensive player of the year in 2025 is going to be Eagles defensive tackle Jalen Carter. I think he is that good. He is that much of a separation as a defensive tackle. Even better, in my opinion, you'll see it this season than an aging Chris Jones. I think how he impacts the game, how offenses have to scheme against him, I think also as I have them as the number 1 seed and just kind of how these things work out. A lot of these guys are more favored the more wins the team has. I think he's going to be that dominant, and you're going to see Jalen Carter win a defensive player of the year. So, Brian, with all that being said, we've picked all the awards. We've picked the divisions. We've picked everything you can imagine. And we have one thing left that, ladies and gentlemen, are used to outside of our predictions week. And that is, of course, our week 1 games. And of course, this is a long episode. So if you've been here this long, you know how these episodes go every year. It's the 6th year. That's okay. You could skip around. We're going to lightning quick go through all of these games and who we got in each win for it. Bry, week 1 opens up Thursday night. The Philadelphia Eagles, champions, hosting a very depleted, let's say, to be nice, Dallas Cowboys. Who's winning that game for you?
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a question here. I mean, I could see it being close early, but the Eagles are the far superior team. I mean, it's Philly all the way here.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to even really talk about. I think this actually could get super ugly. I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles. The Friday game, because the NFL likes doing all these weird games now in Brazil for the second year in a row, is Chiefs Chargers. In this one, I'm taking Kansas City. I think it's a game that's going to be weird because you're in an unfamiliar environment. We know from last year, Packers Eagles, the NFL even issued it wasn't really a safe area. Even these guys were playing, which is why I don't know why we're back doing this again. But I think the Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to kind of wipe the taste out of their mouth from the Super Bowl. They're going to get a win.
Yeah, I'm going Chiefs too. I feel like it'll be a close game, as most Chief games are these days.
Yep. I think Sunday kicks off at 1 o'clock with the Tampa Bay Bucks going to Atlanta. I'm taking the Bucks. Who you got?
Bucks.
Bengals, Browns. The Bengals better get off to a quick start this season. I'm taking the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. That's the thing that holds them back is these slow starts. Well, this year they've got a couple kind of soft landing spots early. They got to take advantage of it. And I'm riding the Bengals this year. I got them in
Yeah.
this one.
The Dolphins will go to the Colts in a game of who really cares, to be honest. I will take Miami, though, in this one.
I will take Miami as well.
Again, another game that I'm not super high on. Raiders, Patriots. I guess it's better than years past, but all I remember is Mac Jones and Chandler Jones. That's really all I remember the last time these two teams were matching up. In this one, I think it's going to surprise. Give me the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm taking the Patriots too. I mean, week one, you can get some funky results. I
Patriots
mean,
beat
week one
Bengals
is
last
probably
year.
the hardest. Yeah, exactly. You talk about the surprise of maybe the season last year. Like, that was just a shocking
Yep.
result. I'm taking New England too on this one.
Cardinals, Saints. I'm taking the Cards all the way.
Cardinals.
Steelers, Jets, Bry. I know our friend Dylan, as you shouted out a couple times here, he's going to this game. His brother's going to this game. A couple people that watch this podcast are going to this game. They're not going to like what I have to say. I think the Steelers are going to win this game.
Oh boy. See, if there's one game for the Jets to win, please let it be this one. Please, please. I mean, they cannot afford to suffer a loss at the hands of Aaron Rodgers. They just cannot. I think the Jets have themselves a good week one showing and start 1-0.
I'm rooting for the Jets, man. I really am. The Giants and Commanders typically have been very interesting matchups, but I think the Commanders are going to win this one.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago that was in the midst of the Tommy DeVito run when he won in
Yeah.
Washington. Yeah, these games are tough to call, but I'm taking Washington even though I don't think they're going to be as good as
And,
last year.
and I think last year the Giants played a game where they didn't have a kicker, so they had to keep going for two against the Commanders. I think that was another thing that happened as well. In the 1 o'clock window as well, the final 1 o'clock game is the Panthers and the Jags. I'm taking Jacksonville. Who you got?
Jacksonville.
The 4:05 games kick off with the Titans going to the Broncos. I'm taking Denver. Who you got?
Denver. I think they win by double digits.
The Niners go to the Seahawks. I'm taking Seattle in Seattle. Who you got?
Yeah, I figured you would. I mean, that is a team I did not expect you to have as a division winner and winning around. I mean, that one really was a big surprise for me. I'm going to take the Niners here on the road.
The 4:25 games kick off with the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. What a great first week game here in Green Bay. The energy is going to be electric, and I think it's going to take the Lions a little bit of time to get going. I'm taking the Packers.
Agreed on all fronts there. I got Green Bay.
The Texans visit the Rams in Los Angeles. I think this is going to be a really fun game. A great defense against a potentially great offense. I think out of the gate, the Rams typically start slow. I think the Houston Texans grab them. Give me the Texans.
Yeah, tough one to call here, and you got like potentially the high-powered offense against that great defense, which a lot of times favors the defense, but I'm giving the Rams the slight edge.
The Ravens go to the Bills right in week one on Sunday Night Football on NBC. We've seen this play out a bajillion times. I'm taking the Ravens in the regular season over the Bills.
Well, we've got both have the Bills in the Super Bowl. I think it would be hard for that to happen if they start with a loss at home. I know it's a tough opponent, but they beat the Ravens last year in the playoffs. Mark Andrews has got to be a little skittish stepping back on that field after what happened a year ago. I'm taking Buffalo.
In the final game, finally in a week one game here, 8:15, Vikings Bears. I'm taking the Chicago Bears to start off 1-0, baby. Who you got, Bry?
I gotta go with my Minnesota Vikings.
Of course. I love it. That was great. A little lightning round. I'm telling you, we will dive, as we always do, more into these games in depth after week one. This is already a ridiculously long show. If you're still here, you're a true fan, and we really appreciate you. Comment below. We love reading and talking to you guys down below. Like and subscribe. Do all that stuff. There'll be timestamps down in the description. You can find our socials down there. And, Bri, any final words here? We wrap up Prediction 2025. It is now pen to paper per se, even though it is digitally. We're locked in. How you feeling?
Yeah, great first show. I mean, it was probably 2 hours plus, probably a record for us, but we had a lot to get to, of course. But my one final thought, as I usually throw to me there for my final thought, I was very intrigued tonight with Bill Belichick's coaching debut with
Yeah.
the North Carolina Tar Heels. Let's say it
How's that
hasn't
going?
gone well because I glanced at the score and I see that TCU is up 48-14.
Yeah.
So the Bill Belichick experiment in college probably not going to go too great.
Yeah, I mean, he had 40, I think, transfers. The team is completely redone. It's going to take a long time. It wasn't going to pop in the first year. It is what it is. We'll see what happens in kind of a 2-3 year plan over there for the Tar Heels. But guys, that wraps up the show here. As always, next week we'll be back to our normal format. But man, I love the prediction show, man. Football is in the air. It's about 3 days from now. I cannot wait to get this going. Brian, I want to thank you so much for being here, and I want to thank all of you for being here. And as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends if you'd be so kind. And until next week of First and 10, I'm so excited to be back. Thank you for watching.